Hey kids, Michael Corsentino with the companion video for my September 2016 Shutter Magazine lighting column. I'm really fired up about this one. This was a lot of fun to create and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's dig right in. This is all about lighting athletes, and this time we're focusing on boxers and fighters. So there's lots of different ways to light athletes, but this is kind of a look that I'm really fond of. This may end up being a series, but this is the first one, so let's dig right in. So here you see one of the final images with color grading and retouching. This actually turned out to be my favorite image of the whole shoot, and it kind of happened as an afterthought, as often does the last shot of the night, and the shoot that you're the subject that you're perhaps least expecting to be the best of the bunch turned out to be absolutely amazing. So. My first stop, as I say in the article, my first stop when I'm creating any kind of look, when I've got a client brief, or if it's something I'm doing for my book without an assignment, regardless, my first stop is always to do my research and to see what's been done before and to kind of figure out what look it is that I'm trying to create, and then to create a roadmap about how to get there. And that's going to be, that will dictate things like the tools and techniques that I need to use and how many assistants I'll need, and what my general plan for the shoot is going to be, right? So it's really important. I always say, and I say this in the article, having a plan is the way to go, because the results are going to be infinitely better than if you don't have a plan. Now, that's not to say that you can't deviate from the plan and be open to spontaneity and cool things that can happen, happy accidents and unexpected directions that you might take during the shoot. But at least if you have a plan, you're going to be on much safer ground, and at least you'll know that you'll be able to get what you had in mind, and then anything else that you come up with is a bonus, right? So let's start by looking at the lighting diagram, just so I can give you the kind of general lay of the land. So this is a 3-light setup. It's pretty simple to execute, but the details, the success or failure are really going to be in finessing the details, because there are a lot of elements, or a few elements in this lighting setup that can be a little tricky and a little persnickety, and you're going to need to dial them in. And that's specifically going to be the two zones, the kicker lights. Two kicker lights in the back. You can see them here, one on the left and one on the right, and then the key light. So let's talk about those. We'll start off with the kickers because that's generally where I start off, and I'm going to walk you through each of the steps of how I kind of dial in this lighting as we progress through this video. And of course in the article. By the way, you should definitely, if you haven't subscribed to Shutter Magazine, do that, because it's amazing. And you can either read it online, the digital edition, or pick up a copy at Barnes & Noble. So definitely check out the print edition of this as well, or the actual article, because there's lots of details in there, and it'll kind of round everything out for you. So for the kicker lights, I'm using two 500 watt second Profoto B1 battery operated strobes, and on those I've got them modified with Elinchrom Rotolux strip boxes. They call them soft boxes, but everybody else calls it a strip box. They're 14 by 35 inches, and on the front of them I have a Light Tools 30 degree soft egg crate grid, and these are their easy pop grids. So they have a kind of a rigid frame that pops up, allows you to collapse it, but once it's expanded, it's rigid, so all the cells kind of maintain their structure, and you're getting the light through that grid that you should be. And that's what I love about the Light Tools grids. They will cost a little bit more. If you're Elinchrom, they're the only grids that are really available for the complete line of Elinchrom softboxes. They're built super well. I recommend them. I use them. I love them. So, if you're interested in grids for Elinchrom softboxes, or any other softboxes really, and you want stuff that's going to last, check out Light Tools. They're great. So again, 30 degree soft egg crate easy pop grids, Light Tools grids on the front of these Elinchrom Rotolux softboxes. 500 watt second lights for the kickers. Okay, these are going to be at about the same about the same power, depending, you're going to have to finesse that as you go, but they're essentially about the same power. On the back here, we've got a collapsible white and back reversible backdrop setup, which I'm going to dial into. I'm going to go through over all the gear. I've got some slides so you can see exactly what kind of made up this this shoot gear-wise, because I know everybody likes to kind of dig in on the technical nuts and bolts. But this will give you a good idea of how everything was laid out with this overhead view. So, and I've got my subject here, and I'm working with 3 different boxers. got a silver reflector here. This is kind of looks like a round one, but in actuality I used a Sunbounce Micro Mini, which is a 2x3 reflector, and I use the silver side up just to create a little more specularity, a little more punch, a little more contrast, right? For the key light, I have a boomed, and I'm going to show you all the grip equipment that I used and stands and stuff, but it's boomed out like this. Here's the stand, and then there's the boom arm, and this is a 1200 watt second Profoto 7B head. Or a Profoto Pro head 7B that will work with a 7B, a 1200 watt second generator. It was nowhere near 1200 watt seconds worth of power. It was dialed way down to F11 is what I got out of it. And it's with a Mola Demi silver interior beauty dish. Okay, Mola Demi silver interior beauty dish. I use the silver dish because there's a white and a silver version. I chose the silver because I really wanted that extra punchy kind of specularity, and the silver beauty dish is going to give me a nice cold tone to the light, whereas the white beauty dish is going to be a much warmer kind of light that you're going to get out of it. Now, what's not pictured here on the front in this diagram is a 20-degree grid spot, which was on the front of this beauty dish, and that is going to help confine the light to a really tight pool. It's going to increase the fall off, so you're going to get much more dramatic fall off of the light. And you can see here that the light is really only, you know, on this portion of the face, and you've got some kicked back in here. Let me just see what I'm showing you here. Here's what we're getting from the beauty dish. We've got some fall off here, and then we're getting everything is getting kind of bounced back in from the reflector under there. And then we've got our kickers creating our light on the sides here. And you're going to see as we walk through this, and I show you how I got the lights dialed in with my assistant Jesse, that we have no light here on the sides of the nose, okay? And that's key for this look. I really don't want that kind of little hot spots on the side of the nose because it just does not, you know, look good to me, anyway, to my eye. So you'll need to really finesse the angle of your kickers here and here in order to, you know, have that light traveling just where you want it, right, and hitting only the sides of the face, but not the nose, right? So I'll show you how I kind of progress through that. But that's it. You know, 3 lights, really simple, 2 zones, 1 for the key light and 1 for the kickers, all right? So pretty simple to execute, but again, you're going to really need to dial everything in. And you can also see here, I want to call your attention to the catch lights in the eyes, okay, because we're going to talk about that as well. So you can see here that we've got catch lights in the eyes. They're little pin light kind of catch lights. But with this arrangement, when you know, and I'm going to sort of, I have some slides to talk about this, but it's worth mentioning up front that when your subject moves around, you know, especially with standing poses and people, you know, fighters, and they're kind of assuming different poses and stances and stuff, and they're also different heights. So all your catch lights can disappear really, really easily. So you're going to want to have an assistant riding that key light. And I had my assistant Jesse over here, you know, on a ladder, you know, adjusting that key light, you know, making subtle adjustments to the key light position, to the angle and the height, so that I would make sure that I had the catch light. And you'll see in the before and after that I'm going to show you what the difference is and why the catch light makes a difference. And something you don't always need a catch light, but it does make a difference. And I think when you see the before and after that I'm going to show you, you'll understand why it's worth kind of making that catch light happen. All right, so let's get real geeky and talk all about the gear. So all these images were captured with my Phase 1 DF Plus body and an IQ 250 50 megapixel back. I shot these with a tripod, a Gitzo tripod. And again, all of these specific model numbers and everything are called out in the article. And I used a 3-way Manfrotto tilt pan head. Shooting on a tripod is definitely something that takes getting used to. It took me a lot of getting used to anyway. It's not my comfort zone, but it definitely can help you know, maintain consistency throughout your portraits, and especially when you're shooting medium format, it's very useful. And this 3-way head really makes the whole process much easier than a lot of other heads that I've worked with. So definitely check that out if it's something that you're interested in exploring. All right, so let's talk about all of the various lighting gear. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit before, but I just want to kind of call it out. So here is the silver Demi. This is the Mola Demi with silver interior. You can see that here. So it's going to create a really punchy specular kind of look. I've got that 20-degree grid spot, which will be mounted to the front of that, and that is going to constrain the light into a really tight pool of light and increase the fall off. And rather than having light spilling everywhere, because this is all about small pools of light and really maximizing that light and creating drama, right? For the key light, I used the Profoto 7B 1200 watt second pack right here with this head that is specific to this pack. Okay. And so you can put 1200 watt seconds through this head. I was nowhere near that. And again, I metered all the lights using a Sekonic L758DR, which you see here. And I metered the key light for F11. Yes. Okay. And both of the kicker lights are Profoto B1 battery operated lights. With these Elechrome Rotolux 14 by 35 softboxes and Light Tools 30 degree, I said 20 before, 30 degree grid spots, egg crate grids. That's, you say that 5 times fast. Egg crate grids, soft egg crate grids. And they have this cool pop-up frame inside of them so that when you expand them, they become rigid and it helps to maintain the cell structure, which you can see here. So a lot of cheaper grids will sag and you're not really getting the kind of pattern that you want and the output that you need from them. So that's one of the benefits of the Light Tools grids. In addition to they're really well made. And everything was triggered with Pocket Wizard +3 triggers. That's how I kind of communicated with the from the camera to all the lights and triggered everything. You can't beat Pocket Wizards. They work every time. All right, so that's the lighting. Now let's talk about the grip equipment. Okay, so I'm a real nut about grip equipment and stands because, I worked with cheaper stands for a long, long time until I could budget in good grip equipment and good stands, and they make the world of difference because there's no creepage, things aren't moving around, you don't have to worry about your gear smashing to the ground, you don't have to worry about your talent getting beamed on the head with a light, all those things that you want to, avoid, right? So I'm a Kupo guy. This is all basically Kupo equipment. Kupo grip is what I use. It's really affordable and it's rock solid, and I use it so for whatever that's worth. On this particular shoot for the key light, I used a high overhead roller, which you see here. And again, none of this is really to scale. With a baby steel boom arm that went into this grip head, and then this thing called an easy finger, and that's going to kind of hang off of here, and I hang my beauty dish down off of that, okay? And this knuckle here, makes it really easy to make subtle adjustments, okay, in angle and pitch and tilt and all the rest of it, and pan, rather than having to go up and work the boom arm and all the rest of it. So if you just have an assistant who can kind of knows how to open that little, to open this up, and then they just kind of adjust it and lock it back down when you have the angle and pitch that you need. And for dialing in and getting the catch lights just so, this is really ideal. And they may have to lower the boom arm a little bit, but it's a lot less involved to do those subtle adjustments when you have something like this. And this is like $50 or something, so it's super worth it. The kicker lights used C-stands. These are master C-stands. I did 20-inch risers on that, okay? There are 40-inch riser kits, but I used the 20-inch for this. Each one of those is topped with a grip head, a 2.5-inch grip head. And a baby pin, okay, otherwise known as a stud, and that is what you attach the light to, your strobe to, all right? So why am I talking about all this? Well, the reason is in the article I talk about how you want to pre-flight everything. So I assemble everything before my shoot that I know that I'm going to use, and I test all my systems and I make sure that everything works. And part and parcel to that is making sure that I have everything that I need, because all it takes is one little element missing and your whole shoot can crash and burn. For example, this little baby pin, right? This is like a $4 item, okay? But if I just sort of threw everything together and then realized when I got on location that, holy crap, I don't have these baby pins, I'm hurting. I'm in a real bad place all of a sudden. I've got no way to support my lights. So that's why I really dig in on the gear when I do these tutorials, because you have to know the gear is really important, and like getting dialed in and having all your systems, all systems go, as they say, like NASA says, that's super important. So pre-flight your stuff, man. Take the time. It's super worth it. All right. So for the reflector underneath, for the fill reflector that we're using to bounce light back underneath our subjects from the key light, I'm just using a light duty Kupo stand. I believe it's called a handy stand. And then you will need an enterprise grip is what Sunbounce calls it. And that is going to attach everything. You can kind of see how they're doing that here. All right. For tethering, I'm using a Coupa runway base, a 20-inch riser, and this really cool tethering plate platform. It's called it's made by DigiPlate, and I'm going to show this to you later. And it's distributed by Innovative. So we'll talk about that later, but it's really rock solid, great, great tethering plate. One of the best that I found. I love my Tether Tool stuff, and no slight to them, but this is what I've been using more and more. Let's go on to our next thing. Okay, so here it is. Here you can see kind of how this tethering system works. And I'm a huge advocate of tethering. Okay, so regardless of what you use, you should be shooting tethered. It's going to really help you assure that you got what you came for. Your clients are going to be rested, to be put at ease. They're going to see that they're in the hands of a pro, that you got what you came for, that you got what they wanted. It's the way to go. So, make the effort and tether. And for me, I'm always using Capture One Pro 9. That's what I tether into. It makes tethering dead simple. Some of you may be using Lightroom. Of course, that works too, but Capture One works every single time. I know when I used to tether into Lightroom, sometimes it would stop or it just wouldn't work, or there'd be all sorts of problems. So that's what I use. And here is the DigiPlate, a little bit more of a close kind of look here, so you can see that it is really rock solid. It kind of resembles a cheese plate that you would have in video applications. So it's got lots of different ways for you to attach things to it and to secure your cords and to carry it, and all sorts of things. You can see that here with the laptop in place, and here it's on a tripod. I use it on a C-stand. So there you go. That is my tethering setup. All right, digging through this here. The background is a collapsible Lastalite reversible black and white 5x6 backdrop. This thing collapses. You can twist it up and fold it into a small package, so it travels really well. So for location shoots like this, it's just perfect. And they've recently come out with this magnetic backdrop holder and stand combo. That's this deal here. Another great thing to use. You can of course use A-clamps or whatever to secure it, but this makes it dead simple, and it works really well. So why not? Okay, that's that. And last but not least are odds and ends, okay? I always have a ladder with me because you're going to want your assistant riding that key light and dialing everything in. And even when you're getting set up, having a ladder on hand for your assistant to stand on and work that key light, or for you to set everything up, you cannot beat a ladder on set. Always have a ladder. Apple boxes. I always have Apple boxes. Let's say I want to sit and not, be breaking my back when I'm shooting. Let's say I want a place for my assistants to shoot. Let's say I need something to stand on to get up higher and shoot down. Apple boxes, love them, get them, use them. Gaff tape. You can't beat gaff tape. It's just 1,000,001 applications. Anything from, like on this shoot, laying down a marker on the floor so your subjects know where to stand. So when you're switching subjects, that they can, the next subject knows exactly where to stand real quick, and you get them all dialed in. Gaff tape is indispensable. Again, inexpensive and worth it every time. Definitely, get some gaff tape and keep it in your bag. All right, let's talk about getting dialed in on our shoot. So the first thing that I do here is, you can see here that I'm using, but this is not one of my subjects, okay? This is Jesse, my assistant, who was Jesse Clements, great photographer, nice enough to come and assist me on this shoot. So one of the first things that I'll do is, and why I do that is because I don't want to waste time with my subjects dialing in my lights. The minute they step in, I want to be at ease. I want to be a confident leader on the set. I want them to know that I'm in command, and they feel they're immediately at ease. They know they're in the hands of a pro and that I know what I'm doing. So rather than fiddling around and trying to get everything right, with them, I work with an assistant first, and then the minute they step on, boom, I'm ready to go. All right, so first thing that I'm going to do is eliminate the variables and work with one lighting zone at a time. Now, for those of you who have read my articles and seen my videos before, you know that that's one of the ways that I like to work, and I would encourage you to do that. So I'll start off with the kickers. You can see here over on the left, we've got only the kicker light zone going. So we've got our right and left zones, and those are lighting up the sides of Jesse's face. However, you can see here that we've got light on his nose. Now, I don't want that, okay? And we're going to work through the process and eliminate that. But that's my first step, is to get those kicker lights going and to sort of assess. Every step of the way, you want to be assessing and seeing where you're at and making adjustments and finessing your light, okay, until you get it right. Next stage in the process is bringing on, and that would be this one. So let's see, 1, 2. And I call these out in the sample pictures in the article, so you'll see steps 1 through 4. Step number 2 is going to be to turn on my my key light, and you can see that here. Now I can see here that this is all kind of falling into darkness, so that's when we were using white as the fabric on the reflector, so we changed that to silver. That was one of the adjustments that we made. I could still see here that I'm getting these lights on the side of these highlights on the side of Jesse's nose, so that was another kind of gotcha, like, okay, we have to correct that. So we moved on. We turned off the I think we turned off the catch light, or the key light again, and really tried to just kind of dial in on these. And we've got this one eliminated on the left side, but we still have that highlight over here on the right side. And that's all going to be in terms of what our position is for our back lights, for our kicker lights, how back to front where they are, and then the angle of what they are and the height of what they are. Okay, so all those things, okay, back to front position, height, and the angle front to back of those lights is going to dictate where that light is falling and where it is not falling. Okay, so here we have it dialed the way I want, but here we don't. We've got this nice thing going on here, but then we've got this ugliness on the nose, and we don't want that. So that's step number 3. And step number 4, after a bit of noodling, here we finally have it dialed in, and you can see here I've applied a little bit of temporary color grading just to kind of give me an idea of the direction that I want to go in for my eventual color grading. Now it was much different when I did the final, but this was sort of what I had in mind, ballpark. Okay, so everything's dialed in. Now I'm ready to bring in my subjects, right? And everything's done. They step in, and now I can focus on getting their expression right, working with them, making them comfortable in front of the camera. These are not people who are used to, most people that you're going to photograph are not people who are accustomed to being in front of a camera. So it's your job to, get what you want from them, to make them comfortable, and to, get the kind of images that you're looking for, right? So that's super important. All right, so let's move on. I wanted to give you guys some behind the scenes shots. The lighting diagrams are great, but I really wanted you to see what it looked like on set, so you can get an idea of the relationships, position-wise, angle-wise, and height-wise for all of the various lights in use. So I've got a bunch of these before and after shots here, or sorry, behind the scenes shots to show you. So here you can see the key light in position. That is the 7B pack powering this ProPhoto head, and the Mola Demi with silver interior. You can see the big boom stand here. You can see me with the phase and the big tripod there. Here is our reflector, and that is bouncing light back up in and opening up the shadows in here and under here, all this being opened back up. And we've got our kicker lights, and that's going to be here, all of this stuff. And that's opening up all of this, right? Giving us nice highlights on the side of the face, which is great. And you can see the collapsible background here, the last light 5x6 collapsible background, and a light stand deal, and the light stand here, all the stuff we talked about in the grip equipment, and the tethering setup. Yay, let's hear it for tethering. Awesome stuff. And a little hard drive to capture all the images onto. All right. And the tethering table, the DigiPlate tethering table. So I think I've covered everything. Yep. Cool beans. All right. So let's move on to our next behind the scenes real quick. So here you can see what's happening, the relationship, the distance that we have going on here. It's about 5 feet from the key light to our subject. And here we've got the reflector, and that is going to just be, bouncing light back in, filling in all of this and opening that up, right? And the tethering station, you can see here that my subject can kind of see what's going on with the image that's being captured, which is helping them kind of see what's going on and feel comfortable and know that, hey, wow, those images look really cool. This guy knows what he's doing. And then all of a sudden they're way more at ease, and they're willing to work for you and to, help you get the best images that you can. Whereas if it's just they have no idea what you're doing, they don't know. They're not used to working with photographers. They have no clue what you're getting, right? So again, another pitch for tethering. All right, here you can see a back view. You can kind of get an idea of my position relative to the beauty dish. Again, another vantage point on the key light and the reflector, and then the kicker lights back here. So you can see kind of where they're positioned, and they're just giving us light here and all along the edge here, and you can see that happening, right? All that light's coming out from here and also from here on the other side. You can kind of see that there. All right, beautiful. And last but not least, you can see me checking everything. So you're really going to want to be on your tethering, okay? Check your tethering. Either you or an assistant should be checking your tethering all the time to make sure you've got your catch lights. We're going to talk about that in the next slide to make sure you're getting what you want, checking your focus, and, just really looking at your captures, because it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and not see things. So shooting tethered makes you work more deliberately, more slowly, and really analyze what you're doing. And that's one of the things I love about medium format also, is it slows me down and it makes me more deliberate. I shoot less, consequently I have to edit less. And that's a good thing, right? And I'm more deliberate, I'm more thoughtful about what I'm doing. So I want to call your attention to this kid over here. This kid just kind of hung back and watched for the entire shoot. And they were like, oh, we don't forget him because he wants a couple of shots and this and that. And I was like, okay, sure thing. I mean, you want to do right by whatever location you're at, and if they're asking you for a favor. And it was basically just going to be a favor, and it was kind of an afterthought. He was the last guy that I shot, the least imposing looking physically of the guys that I was going to work with that night. And he turned out to be the absolute best. He's the guy right at the beginning of this presentation that you saw. Doesn't even look that imposing in this shot. Looks completely like you wouldn't even guess. And man, when this kid stepped in front of the camera, and he was really young, and I told him, okay, look, I'm your opponent. I need you to bring it, and I want you to look at me like, I'm the guy in the ring. Holy crap, like this kid just turned it on, and we sprayed him down with a little bit of water, and it just made all the difference, and it ended up being the best shot from the whole session. So it's funny that happens sometimes, and this was one of those times. So always be open to those kind of wonderful little happy accidents. All right, so catch lights. As you can see here, the catch lights are really tricky. You can lose the catch lights really, really easily just by a subtle tilt of the head, a different shift in stance, different heights of your models and everything. So you really want to be watching those. And that's one of those things where tethering is really going to, be your partner in crime. It's really going to help you look at your images and make sure you've got what you want. Okay, so you can see here on the left, we've got no catch lights in the eyes, and you can see how they're kind of dead. I mean, it could still work. It's not the worst case scenario, but for my money, having those little catch lights, and you could always, put them in after in post. I hate doing that. I like to get it right in camera. For my money, the image with the catch lights, even though they're small, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, but they give a little bit of life, they give a little bit of brightness to the eyes, and I think they make a world of difference. So that's one of the things that I would, encourage you to really be on, are your catch lights, in most instances. But you have poetic license, you have dramatic license, it's up to you. There's sometimes when I don't want catch lights, but in this instance, it made a world of difference. And one of the things I would tell my subject in order to assure that I got those catch lights is, okay, if you're going to start down with your head down, I want to shoot one with your head down, one in mid position, and one looking up more toward the key. Okay, so hold that position, and then I would do 1, 2, 3. Head down, head midpoint, head up, so that I would make sure that I got those catch lights. So that's how I made that happen, because it became a little tricky, and I was like, we're not getting those catch lights. All right, so let's talk about the software workflow. Again, everything was captured using Capture One Pro as my raw processor. These are all raw files, 16-bit raw files. And I did my color grading in Capture One as well. It's a wonderful, I mean, I do everything that you can do in RAW to your RAW file, and that's one of the beautiful things about Capture One. It's an amazing RAW processor, so I use that to do all my color grading. And then I bring the files into Photoshop, in this case Creative Cloud 2015 CC 2015.5. For retouching and sort of subtle luminosity adjustments to highlights and things like that, and potentially some sharpening. So I do a lot of my sharpening in Capture One as well. And the retouching is handled using Retouching Academy's Beauty Retouch panel, which you guys have probably heard me talk about before. And that's over here on the right. You can see that panel that I use. And with these images, I had to be really careful not to overdo it with the retouching, because the last thing I wanted was these guys to be all soft and pretty. They're rough and, fierce boxers and fighters, and that's I wanted that look to be, I wanted the retouching to be consistent with that. So, don't get carried away with your retouching. Make your retouching fit the needs of the shoot, right? make it purposeful. And in this case, too much retouching would have defeated the look that I was going for. All right, so let's talk about color grading and retouching steps. Here you can see, I'll just call this image number 1, you can see straight out of the camera with no color grading or retouching. Image number 2 is the color grading applied, and image number 3 is the color grading and the retouching. All right, so that's the whole Megillah. And let's take a look at all the 3 finals from the shoot here. Real nice set. Really happy with how these all turned out. And last but not least, I want to just show you this crop again because I really just love how this looks nice and tight. I mean, the intensity on this kid's face is just priceless, worth the entire shoot. Best of the night, in my opinion. And kind of unintended. So really nice surprise, nice way to end the shoot. So that's going to wrap it up for this month, guys. Again, refer to the article. Lots of great stuff in there. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next month.